All right, so you dealing with the bot. I will go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the November 20th, 2024 CalPADS Q&A. My name is Paul Higgins. I am a data analyst working at CSIS supporting CalPADS. Just some announcements. I'm going to apologize right up front. I'm coming off a cold, so my voice may break periodically. So I apologize that I am not going to be the ideal weatherman today. But announcements, the 24-25 Fall 1 submission is open. We are just coming to the end of the period where you should have fatal errors. According to the timeline up on the screen there, recommended date for zero errors is November 22nd, which is this Friday. The initial deadline is coming up on the 13th of December, and the final deadline will be the 24th of January, where you can make any amendments that you need to in that time frame. But we end by that initial deadline. We'd appreciate that. The CalPAD Service Desk and the CDE will be closed on Thursday, November 28th and Friday the 29th in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. In addition to that, CalPADS itself will be offline during the window of Saturday, the 14th of December through Monday, the 16th. And I believe it'll come back online that morning, but we'll be undergoing some structural changes in the back end. That's why they're being taken offline. Now, we will be available on the 16th, but we will not have access to CalPADS, so we won't really be able to do much except answer generalized questions, but nothing specific to the data. Let's see. I don't think we've had any flash messages recently. Angela, how are we doing with bugs, builds, and all sorts of wackiness on the back end?
We are up to date on the fixed issues that went in yesterday. And people ask often at this call, are we done adding fall 1 errors? The answer is yes, although I have one that I'm working on right now where it appears to not be triggering. So it's turned on, but it's not triggering. And it's happening for English learners who do not have the US initial enrollment start date populated. So if we get that turned around really quickly, we'll turn that back on, or it is on, like I said, but you might just get some new errors if you have that scenario. And that was all I had today, Paul.
Thank you much. All right, Sean, do you have anything for the group?
No, not today, but thank you.
All righty, and let's just jump into the Q&As or the Q questions and answer box. First one we have is at 302 from Rebecca, Q1. Should we ignore the TK column on report 8.1 now that the TK is a grade level and we are not reporting the SPRG record any longer? That's a great question. Do we have the report mapping guide up on that? I'm pulling it up over here really quick. First, hold on just a second, we're getting there. Let's see.
Probably just a leftover from when it was a program. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just wanted to see if we had that on the report mapping guide or not.
Yeah, it's number 36.
Looks like, 36.
There it
Oh, yeah,
is.
there it is. Right.
I think it's just there for historical reasons. So when you do pull an older version of this report, it's still there. So we can't remove it. Because if you go back and like pull last year's, or not last year's, year before, you do need to be able to see that information.
Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Corey, 302 Q1. A teacher is retiring on November 22nd with a new teacher beginning on 12/2. The students currently enrolled with the retiring teacher will continue with the new teacher with no changes to the classroom enrollment. Will the change in teacher affect Fall 1 reporting for CalPADS? Fall 1 reports data as of Census Day, which is the first Wednesday in October, which fell on October 2nd this year. So the teacher's retirement a month and a half later isn't going to affect Fall 2 at all because you are going to report that teacher as being employed on that date and include them as teacher of record for those courses on census day. So for end of year one, when you report, you'll be reporting teacher one, who's retiring on the 22nd, for the courses they taught. And then from 12/2 forward, you would have the new teacher identified as the teacher of record. All right. Corey, see that Q2, Q1 from Ethan, 303. Is there possibly a defect with the SENR 0656F1? We seem to have EL students with their initial school enrollment date blank, or the SIMP record that overlaps census day, but we're not getting the error for them.
It's the one I
And
mentioned at the top of the call, Paul, that I'm
there you
trying to send it up. For some reason, I can't get a data discrepancy to run in the test environment, so I'll just send it up anyway.
Okie doke. Well, there you go, Ethan. Angela's working on that. All right, 304 Q1 from Heather. 303 lip code. We have a class at our high school servicing newcomers, or newcomers who are students who are new to the U.S. We're thinking we should be marking these students with the 303 LIP program, but some of the students have been in the U.S. longer than 12 months. Does the 12-month timeline matter for the rest of if the rest of the 303 definition fits? So up on screen, we see the definition of the 303, and it reads a language and a LIP designed for English learners who are new to the U.S. With less than 12 months of schooling in the United States, this program provides instruction in designated and integrated English based on, okay. Well,
The last line.
Yeah, this program, clear entry and exit criteria with the goals and with the goals and timelines defined. So to respond directly to your question, yes, the dates matter. It's very specific to newcomers with less than 12 months of schooling in the United States. So yeah, it would not be appropriate for the students who have more than 12 months. Stephanie, 304 Q1. More about fall 2, but if a course has a state course code of 9231, SPED Support Resource Specialist Program, must the sections tied to it also have coded instructional strategy 700? If it's not, it will cause errors.
That's correct. And it's in the FAQ. Gary.
Alrighty.
Normally I just do 9231. And it tells them that yes, they clearly need to add in that instructional strategy. And thank you, Sue Ann, for answering it as well.
All right, let's see. So kill that one. Got it. Maya 304 Q1 race and ethnicity data in CALPADS comes from the SIS. What is the purpose of having race ethnicity data separately entered into the SEDS other than for showing up on the IEP? If I recall correctly, there was some discussion as we were assimilating CASEMIS into CALPADS as to what to do with the race ethnicity data and whether it should come from two sources. And it was decided for simplicity in CALPADS, it would just come from the SIS. The SEDS race ethnicity data is maintained separately, and it's a nice check to have against the SIS data. And if there's a conflict, you can investigate that. But realistically, it's a legacy of CASEMIS and what used to have to be entered into CASEMIS from the SEDS. And now we're just taking it from the SIS to be as consistent as possible across the board in all of our reporting. I'm not 100% certain about if there's any other use for the SEDS race ethnicity data, and I will leave that to others to answer who are more familiar with the SEDS and how it's integrated.
The only thing I would add is on the CalPADS frequently asked questions about the minimum required data elements to obtain an SSID and enroll a student. There's no race, ethnicity information gathered there. So having that place in your special education data system to gather that information may be like a stopgap as well.
All right, thank you, Dominic. Sue Ann, 304. Hi, Sue Ann. Q1, has anyone noticed any transitory data issues? For example, combined two SSIDs, however, the SENR records of the other LEA did not show up until a day later, or tried to look up an SSID after obtaining a new SSID but could not find it for 30 minutes, asking for a friend. Anybody on this call seeing the transitory data issues described there?
Every once in a while, we get some weirdness where it seems like that kind of thing happens.
All right. Well, Sue Ann, it's I don't have anything that I've run into recently that would match that criteria. Right. And you can't submit a ticket because they disappear. Yeah,
Yep.
I get, yeah. And that's the frustration in trying to identify these problems and get them remedied. So I don't have a good answer for you. All right, moving on to an anonymous participant at 305 Q1. Why is the 2.8 report listing the primary language separately by old and new codes? For example, it will list O1 Spanish and SPA Spanish in different columns. It's because they're different codes. The historical codes that were numeric, we didn't update them, nor are we requiring anyone to update them. And mapping the old 2-digit codes to the new 3-letter codes didn't happen. So we end up with the 2 columns representing Spanish or German or Dutch or whatever it is. It's going to have 2 entries. So I'm not sure how that's going to work itself out, except over time, where 8, 9 years from now, when everybody who had the 2-digit code will have graduated. Oh, let's see. Yep. All right, Wendy 306 Q1. With so many different family/guardian situations, how do we determine which parent or guardian ed level to report to CalPADS? Who the student lives with, regardless of ed rights, social workers, siblings, non-custodial relatives.
That's a local
Sure.
decision,
There you go.
Wendy.
Thank
And it's a local decision. It's a local decision, one of who to be able to name as, or who to be able to list as the parent. And then subsequently with following up with who the parent is, or listing the parent's name, then their educational level as well. You should have a codified practice though, that is fairly, generic across the board at your LEA. If not, I would discuss with your child welfare and attendance monitor. And then also within the CalPADS FAQ, we do have one FAQ there that mentions regarding parent names, the possibility for if parent names need to be listed or not be listed, because there are certain situations where it may not be fruitful for the student and their safety.
All right, and Sue Ann does bring up an interesting point that if you leave it as a local decision, then doesn't the quality of the data become compromised?
Not if you have a codified practice in place. And that's why we mentioned that first, to say, go ahead and speak with your child welfare and attendance monitor. So that way you guys can ensure that that practice is standard across the board and it's not just ad hoc. And
right.
Gary has found the parent guardian information right there, those 2 questions. Thank you.
All right, moving on. 309, Eva Q1. I have a kinder student currently enrolled in a private school, but receiving services from our Students with Disabilities Department. I have been asked to add an enrollment for the student. I opted for the enrollment status 50. Is this correct? Is this the correct status? Not sure if I chose between 20 or 50. All right, up on screen, Gary has the various reporting scenarios for students with disabilities.
Number 13 or 14.
Always good to have people on the phone who know these things. All right, 13 and 14 are the two scenarios you want to look at. And Gary, would you post the link to this in the chat so people can access it? Thank you. And there's also a downloadable Excel version at the bottom of the screen that you can filter a little bit better, I think.
One important thing to note is the student should be enrolled in the LEA where the private school is located. So if that's not Wasco Union Elementary, then you should not have an enrollment. Just something to consider. It wasn't clear from the question.
Well, thank you for clarifying, Dominic. All right. All right, I have Yesenia 309 Q1. If we have a 23-24 12th grade student that was exited with a 300 expelled, this student later re-enrolled at another LEA. Will that student count as a dropout? Do I need to edit the exit code to a T160 or leave it as a 300? Well, your exit codes are characterizing how they left your LEA. The 300, what is 300? Is that, I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, that recommendation for the T165, I think is what I would change it to. But in general, anything coded as a dropout will be reported as a dropout. And if you go to the CALPADS data guide, Appendix C or D, I don't remember which one, it identifies all of the exit codes as well as the attributes associated to them. Oh, thank you, Gary. E300, expel, no known enroll. Okay. So if you changed it to T165 and then look that up in the data guide in Appendix C or D, you would see how they would be identified, even with the exit and a subsequent enrollment and or without an exit or a subsequent enrollment.
Paul, I think we missed a
Yes, ma'am.
question from Stephanie. 309, I think I got put in the answer. I think we may have double clicked.
Oops. Well, let's find out.
It's okay.
309, you say? 304, 304.
From Stephanie, I think he answered that one.
Oh, my bad.
Nope, I don't think I did. This was a different one. So
oh, different 9231.
Yeah.
No, this one's about the LPAC, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Q1 from Stephanie, 309. I don't know how to get it back. Let me see if that'll work. Okay, I'm just going to read it from here.
Okay.
Q1, a student was pre-enrolled in kindergarten, was tested with an initial LPAC, and when the school started, was enrolled in preschool rather than kindergarten. The student transferred into kindergarten in mid-October. We are now getting the SENR 644F1. How do we resolve it? Currently, the existing LIP record for this year has a start date of when the student transferred into kindergarten.
So this is flash 286 down towards the bottom of it, Stephanie, and your LEA has some work to do because I don't know where you all are in the process of this. So I think it's scenario like 6. And it gives you the step-by-step details, 1 through 6, with like 2 notes there as well too. You will most likely still need a service desk ticket, but you're going to start with the stairs portion at least first. to be able to reset, but then also I'm still a little confused about they went from K to preschool versus TK2. So either way, go ahead and put in a service desk ticket. We'll help you out and then see where you are with this in this process. And yes, please include an SSID number.
All right. Thank you, Sean, for calling my attention to that. I apologize for skipping you and or shunting you into the answered column without answering your question. All right, anonymous participant again, 313Q1. Confused on the SIMP date match to the student's first date of enrollment in a California school or US school. What error does this trigger? And
Somebody said they found their answer.
well, Susan said that, but Susan's not an anonymous participant.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't sure. That's why I was like, I don't know.
So confusing. That's why we say rename yourselves. This anonymous participant stuff, silly. All right. Okay, so Susan, I hope that you were the anonymous participant. You found your answer. All right, Corey, 303Q2. A student left school at the end of August. The school exited the student as E140, but the student did not enroll at another school and has returned to the original school as of October. Should school change the exit code, leave as E140? I would say leave it as E140 because you can only use the E140 after you've SARBed the student, done a complete search for them, and been unable to find them, which is something you actually want reported to show that you were doing your due diligence looking for that kid. Then you held the SARB, then you exited him as E140. That he showed up eventually later, or that they showed up eventually later, that's immaterial to the E140 because there's a whole process behind the E140 that should have been followed to use it. All right, my Q&A box is empty right now. Anybody have anything just to talk about with the group? General discussion about anything maybe needing to be done, how things are going? Any commentary?
I'm sitting here in the quiet praying no one asks us to sing. Oh, like if that helps you.
Sue Ann's asking Q2, what is the error that Stephanie got? Stephanie, what error did you get?
Center 644 F1, which is missing lip record. It's a tricky one because the student is technically, if you look at the data now, I pulled up her data, it's a changed back to preschool as of information day. So they shouldn't even have an EL record.
Yeah, but then they should have one because they shouldn't have one as a census date, but then they should have one as of the other date.
Yeah,
when
later.
became kindergarten.
October 8th, they became a kindergartner.
All right, let's close that one. Yesenia 326 Q2. Do you need to report both ethnicity and race on all students moving forward? Well, we've required that since the advent of CalPADS, with varying success, but that Cert 4, notice the number 4, it was the fourth validation we ever created for a submission. So it's been around for a while, and we just recently moved everything over to the CDD, so it's been renumbered, so you lose visibility on that, but it was very early on that we wanted it. So yes, we are going to need race and ethnicity on all students moving forward.
And then
Nicole,
Angelina, go ahead, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, Angelina, I'm not sure if you have a question in the chat, but if so, if you can put it in the Q&A.
All right, moving on to Nicole 326. I have a data discrepancy warning for students without services for fall 1, but they don't show as warnings on my snapshots. Plan 679F1.
Answer that, Paul, if you want.
Go for it.
There are several new CDD warnings that aren't going to show up on the certification report. It's a long story. It wasn't a mistake, but I think going forward, the plan is to eventually move them all over onto that cert report as well.
All right, thank you for that. Spin at 326 Q1. Is there a flow chart of how we should resolve mids not on the report? I found the mids while working on my ERDs, resolved the mids, emailed the other LEA, and some were not happy that I resolved them before informing them. Kyron's typing. And
It's on
somebody
the,
just eliminated the question.
I think
Oh,
Kyron, when he types the answer and hits enter, then it
yeah,
automatically goes over.
yeah,
Sorry,
I don't know
Kai.
what setting is that. I need to turn off that setting from mine.
It's
But
when
it,
we get made a host. So
oh,
Kyron,
really?
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I posted the link to the specific instructions in the user manual.
And I believe Gary clicked on that and has it up on the screen. Resolving combining mids through resolution interface. So if you go to the chat box, Kyron's link will be in there, and you can go to the CalPADS user manual and look at this this entry.
Byron, does it talk about working with the other LEA before you actually merge?
It does talk about needing to resolve overlapping enrollments. So it it alludes to it. But I will probably have to add that a note in there.
I think that's probably a
yeah,
good call because it gives that
Yeah.
other user an opportunity to defend themselves or make
right.
changes to the data if they need to.
Okay, we will add that.
All right, moving down to Sylvia 327. Parent Education Code 15 still available for this year? Let's pull up that user or the
That's
Is
the
that
one
the
we changed the definition for.
declined to
Are we?
state? Oh,
let's pull up
Yeah,
the code
isn't,
sets.
I want to say yes, but I don't know what 15 is off the top of my head.
I always have to go to the glossary first and then hear Fritz. Otherwise, it just hangs on me. Nope, that's not going to be it.
Yes, it's still current. It's declined to state. Gary, you had it right.
Declined to stay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so yes, it's in the code set which Gary's showing, and it doesn't have a
Oops.
end date on there, or at least I thought it was.
Oh, there's a lot of 15s. I
You
just don't
scroll
remember what
down towards the bottom. Yeah, sorry. There you
There
go.
we go. Highest ed level. That was what I was thinking of.
All right, declined to state is an individual who declined to state their highest education level or for whom information is unavailable. So that is the current definition of code 15, declined to state, which is active.
And Rebecca, thanks for adding in the helpful link for him too.
All right, Angelina, 328 Q1. Sorry about that. Supporting reports. Is there
I don't know what that meant either.
Yeah, I don't know what
I
that
was gonna
means.
go with
Is there...
8th, but I'm not really sure.
Oh, wait a
I
minute,
was like,
wait a minute. Is that ethnicity? Sorry about that. Sporting reports, is there an ethnicity record missing for no show, or does it matter? Is that the question you're asking, Angelina?
I think so, Paul. I really do. I think you got it.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah. Because I was like, I couldn't, I was stuck. I was like, I don't know.
All right. So let's see. Is there an ethnicity record missing for no show? Yeah, for no shows, it really shouldn't matter. It's even if their no show was on census day, they're a no show and shouldn't be included in the validations, shouldn't be included in the reports. They didn't show up, so that's what that is.
Yeah, they weren't there on census day, so you're good.
Hi, Anne. Anne at 328. Q1. Can someone explain the reason behind the law requiring documentation for students who are retained in kindergarten? It requires a special form with the parent, principal, and teacher signing it. I'm going to just pass that right along to you, Sean.
Thanks, Paul.
It's in the frequently asked questions.
It is.
It is?
The kindergarten frequently asked questions.
Yeah, the TK ones.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dom.
Sure.
So can I explain the law behind it? No, I can't explain. I can't give a breakdown of the law because we're not attorneys. But what I think you're asking is about just students overall being retained. And like the TK continuance that you will find in the early childhood UPK KN enrollment FAQs, and I'll slide that in there. Jan said probably a lawsuit, and I'm like, yeah, there you go. Thanks, Jan.
Yeah, I put a link in the chat to the
Cool. Thank you.
Sure.
And so it gives you the specifics of the kindergarten continuance, also the age ranges within there. And yes, there are formal like processes that need to occur at your school site in order for that to occur for any student being retained or promoted.
All right. Thank you. All right, we are back down to an empty Q&A box. Oh, nope, Wendy Johnson, 335 Q2 for court school enrollments. We do not have enrollment forms from the parent, so we check their CalPADS record to populate our SIS. If a student's most recent record indicates that the parent reported not a high school grad, but in earlier years previously reported they were a college grad or have some college, which should we use?
Local decision.
Wendy, go ahead and put in a ticket so I can investigate that one, because my honest answer wants to say that there should be some type of data request that you all do from the previous school. So you have the information, and you go based upon that information, but I can't say with 100% certainty right now. So if you can go ahead and send a ticket and put my name on it, that would be great. And I will look into that for you.
Thank you, Sean.
My pleasure.
All right, Angelina, 335 Q2. Do you answer questions regarding which Fall 2 and EOI 3 reports to use for the SARC, S-A-R-C? For grads and completers, UC, CSU percentage calculations, I am referring to the data definitions for SARC.
And so for those there, you're going to be looking for, it depends on basically which elements specifically or SARC you're looking at. And so it's going to be in the technical guides. For what department is that? Oh, dashboard. Sorry. I was drawing a blank. I was like, so the dashboard technical guides, and then Rebecca posted a wonderful sheet that she does for like the SARC template overview for Fresno COE. Thank you, Rebecca. So I'll just note that all of those items don't necessarily, that's why she has them grayed out, because all of those, that's why I said it depends on what actual data element you're looking for. And so not everything comes from CalPads. So that's why she has them grayed out to like to show you which do and which do not. And again, you just want to pinpoint which specific item or calculation you're looking for. But again, back to the calculations, you would be best off using the technical guides for those as well. And then the data quest guides as well too. And Rebecca's got the data quest linked. You so love me, Rebecca. Yes, and the update for those come out in mid-December from our AMART offices, our accountability offices.
All right. Angelina seems very excited, says, yay, thank you for that. So thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, Sean. All right, Charlene, 339 Q1. Can we look at the SED matrix again? The second line with parent number 2 blank means there's no second parent listed. What if there is a second parent, but hers ed level is blank? Does that mean that the student is not eligible?
What's the link for that?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. We pulled that up today. It's on
Yeah, we did.
we have it on a sheet.
It's
I
on the
thought it was an
roadmap,
FAQ.
Gary.
Oh.
It's if you go to the Fall 1 roadmap.
Okay.
Thank you, Angela.
Back to
Glad
it.
I'm not driving today. I'd be
I
having hell, playing hell too.
Apparently you guys aren't answering those tickets. Maybe I'm getting them all.
I think so. I was like, I haven't gotten that.
Fall 1 roadmap, you said?
Fall 1 roadmap, and then just search for parent ed. Control F, parent ed. There you go. Oh, no, that's not it.
Oh,
Do parent ed is your search, not parent. There you go.
there we go.
All right, so not a high school eligible, not a high school null blank eligible, or no selection eligible. That's, I think, the scenario you're asking for. So if they are, the parent 1 is not a high school graduate, but parent 2 is null blank, then they are eligible.
I think her twist was that she does have the second parent person listed, but their education level is not populated.
Okay.
So you should be populating that, Charlene. If you guys remember, that was initially turned on as a fatal error this fall, and because it got turned on so late, we ended up turning it to a warning. So you should see those as warnings on your data discrepancies. But eventually it is going to go back to a fatal. So I would recommend working on making sure that that field is populated for the second parent or guardian.
That's the 635 error, if I remember.
That's correct. And so then if you're part of that decline to state, oh, maybe that was your original question, was the decline to state definition. So part of that decline to state definition, it states at the end, because we modified that definition, or for whom information is unavailable. So then if that parent, you know that parent's name, you reached out to that parent and they haven't been able to provide that information, then it would go, you would then list that as a 15 for whom the information is unavailable. And so in that case, then you would have a parent that one is a 14 and one is a 15. And so the SED impact would be that they're not eligible.
All right.
Well, we left Meredith out there. My bad, Meredith.
Moving on to Nicole's Q2 at 341. I'm getting a CRSE 638F2 and data discrepancies for itinerant teachers who have support classes assigned to them with no students enrolled. They appear to be set the same as last year, so I'm not sure why they are triggering. I believe we have a bug on that. Yeah,
7048.
there we go. So you are seeing that correctly, but we do have a bug written against it, and it is being worked on. Alex, 342 Q1. If a student is labeled as Title III newcomer in U.S. school less than 3 years and EL, should the student be marked as LIP 303, newcomer program, various program? If I recall the 303 discussion we had at the beginning of this call, the 303 is very date dependent and 3 years exceeds it. I believe the 303 said that they had to have had less than 12 months of schooling in the United States for that to be a valid code. Yes,
So
12
you're
months of
correct.
schooling. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. So they have to be within that 12 months, or I think it's 12 months or less, right?
Yes.
With less than 12 months. So it has to be less than 12 months. Sue Ann is correct. The students can have more than one LIT program. But in this case, just because they're a newcomer, Alex, doesn't necessarily mean that 303 program would continue for them. Because if they're past that 12-month period, then that one should be removed.
And Rebecca brings up an excellent point. Connect with your EL coordinators if you haven't already. The code should reflect what is actually taking place for the student.
Agreed, Rebecca. Thank you.
All right, moving down to Jan at 343. So the earlier answer I read about parent guardians said that they should be the ones living with the student. So if they live with mom only, then only report mom, not dad who doesn't have custody.
Jan, that wasn't an answer posted by us.
Yeah, it's I believe that our discussion was that it's a local decision as to who's included, but it should be a codified policy that is implemented objectively across the board. So determine who's in the household and who gets reported. If mom and dad live separately and your policy says you're only going to have with who they live with, that's what you use. And I mean, real honestly, CalPADS is only going to trigger on the data posted to it. So you got to go all the way back to formula and say, who are we going to include in that, in that parent guardian information? And correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, but I believe that most SISs are populating that with, whoever's on the contact sheet. So if mom and dad are divorced, live in two separate households, but they still have not married, so there's no step parents involved. Mom and dad could both be listed there, live separately, and both be identified.
That's correct. And so
Okay.
they typically, most SISs have like a ranking or an ordering of the parents. And so they can put in like one or two for them as who's first and second. And it can stay separate from the contacts page as well too, versus what's reported to CalPADS.
Okay.
So they meet the needs, which is wonderful. Thank you, vendors.
And Jan follows up with the question might be because some grants that colleges give money for the SED students, if if they grew up in that situation.
You're absolutely correct, Jan. It could be because of that. I don't know. I couldn't speculate as to why the question was posed. I thought it was posed more for um the 15 understanding the definition for 15, but I don't fully recall.
All right. So we have 13 minutes, 12 minutes left, and the Q&A box is currently empty. And I believe that we just had kind of a light day because everybody's at site. All right.
Our
Well,
CalPads inbox doesn't feel like everybody is at site.
yeah, I know the feeling. I know. All right. So Ann is asking a Q3, where did Gary get his fancy suit?
That's
There's
a
been a
really
whole
old picture.
Yeah, there's been a whole discussion in the chat regarding
I don't know,
Gary's
silly.
fancy suit, taking credit for how fancy and sharp Gary's looking. So
That's an old picture. There's no gray hair in my beard in that one.
Okay, Stella 348 Q1. Should the district that has the active enrollment be the one to do the mid-merge? That's generally the way it works. That something was posted there incorrectly, or date ranges, or I'm sorry, I was talking CCEs. Yes, for a mid-merge, it's generally the active enrollment because they're the ones working with it. They're going to be the ones who have found it. Uh, and it may be because during their activities during the enrollment created it. We're not sure. But yes, as Suann says, always check with the other LEA. So, even if you're not the active one and you find it, contact the other LEA, say, hey, we got an active mid here. What do you want to do? All right.
And we encourage that because it's just the courteous thing to do, because if once that SSID gets merged with another with the other one, then all LEAs want to be able to know which SSID it is that they're looking then for.
All right, Charlene 348. Marshall can play the certification song for us. Well, Marshall's at site, so he's not here. At site, he's had multiple people in the double digits talking to him, asking him about that music. So he's been he's been the DJ on call, answering questions about the CalPads album.
I love it. I do.
Lethea 349 Q1. We are getting fatal SENR 606F1 for a student who had a short-term enrollment with another LEA from 10-2 to 10-4. Are we supposed to end our primary enrollment to resolve this? My understanding was that they were only supposed to add an end date to our enrollment if the other LEA's short-term enrollment became a primary enrollment. My guess is if you actually dig in a little bit deeper and go down and look at the plan data, that subsequent enrollment posted data or posted a plan record, which probably is overshadowing yours. It's superseding yours, and it is the active plan data on census day. So if they had a short-term enrollment, they should not have adopted, well, let me take that back. A short-term enrollment at a COE site should not have done this. So I don't know where that secondary enrollment was, but if it was a short term parallel with yours, generally they should not have put plan data up there. So if you put in a service desk ticket, we'll be able to look at that with you and give you our guidance as to what needs to happen. But my guess is that there is a plan record that has been posted that is superseding yours on census day.
And I just want to say kudos to Lethea for putting in like the phonetic spelling of her name, because I'm just like,
I'm really grateful.
I literally still would have been like, Lithia. I'm like, I'm sorry. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, it's Lithia. Okay, thank you. Because, yeah, I'm horrible with it.
Yeah, I'm always grateful when there's a name I'm uncertain of if somebody has posted a phonetic spelling of it. So yes, I'm grateful as well.
But then it just made me feel old when she put in an acronym that I'm like, I have no idea what that means.
I think it was thank you so much.
I have the shirt where it's like old people's text messaging or whatever and stuff. I was just like, yes, because that's so me.
All right, we are 3:53, so we got 7 minutes left. An empty question box. So if anybody's got any questions, now's the time to put them in there so we can get them done before 4 and we can get you back to work on time. Or we could give you 7 minutes back and go from there.
I just checked the service desk queue, so I vote we end it and go to answer some
Great.
tickets.
Fair point. Thank you for being ominous. I appreciate that. All right, everybody. Thank you for showing up today. It's been great. Always a good crowd showing up for these events. If you have any questions between now and the next Q&A, please put in a service desk ticket and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. Otherwise, we will see you back here next Wednesday. Is the next SPED office hours next Tuesday?
It'd be
Monday.
Or
Monday.
Monday. Thank you. Okay, so the SPED office hours will be next Monday with Dominic, filling your ears with all the magic that he sings. And we will see you back here next Wednesday. Have a
Next
great week.
Wednesday's the day before Thanksgiving, right?
So we'll have a
Yes.
big crowd.
Thanks, everyone.